Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. We're getting started just a little bit early today. Past couple of days have been kind of rough, so trying to get back into it. We're picking back up with our coding stream. See if we can keep the momentum on that going. And let's see, we've had some folks in chat already. Way earlier, we had Tyler. We do have Colin joining us, and over on the Twitch side we have Squishy. Hello, everyone. Hello. Let's see. Kitty check wise, we can actually see all five right now. Ember and Sky are across from the keyboard there. Sky is using Ember as a pillow. Mason and Sammy are on the bed, Mason on the blanket and Sammy on the pillow, respectively. And then Sherbet is squirming away on his heating pad of choice at the moment. But yeah, good times. Let's see how long the camera stays on Sherbet, huh? He is prone to shifting around, so. Let's see. Last we left off, I find cats comforting. Okay, but last we left off, we had converted the spawning system over, so it was creating creatures in the collision zone. We fixed the memory leak. A little further. We fixed the memory leak by altering a bit of the structure. Now that means that we've had to go in and make some of the node structure created inside of the movement object. Let's hop over to that and show you. So on ready, the node itself will create its kind of a container type. This movement templates. And then we'll add that to itself as a child. Subsequently, when you add movement templates to it, you call into this, and they move that way. Well, and they're added that way instead of trying to directly child them to something. What this is doing is getting us around a thing about Godot, and that's that if you're using its node structure, its built-in kind of tree, then at different points in the creation of those objects that are represented by the trees, different parts of them will be ready. Hey there, Jacob. Welcome. And this dodges that, where we're setting up that structure manually. I would like to not have to do that, but it seems like we do, so we're gonna. Let's see here. We want to get at least two things done today. We want to get the projectiles going again, the emission thereof, and we want to make sure we get the collision between the creatures in the projectiles with the creature's subsequent removal. Again, all of this is kind of placeholder logic as far as game behavior. We're getting the basics that will build into that yet. So the number in the upper left corner is the number of creatures that we're generating. The basic logic of the creatures is that they just converge on the player. And in the actual game, this happening would result in damage to the player. and the player's inevitable loss if they don't do something about it. Now, we should start losing frames at like 480, like 450 plus creatures on screen. So at the moment, we're capping it at 300 to keep that performance going. There are a lot of things that'll be coming later, Colin. We have plans on that front, but we're a ways out. So if we stay at 300 at the moment, we have 300 individual entities with some basic collision inside of them. One thing I would like to do is get the rendering of the creatures to happen top to bottom, Y ordered, but that's a later thing. That's a later thing. I think it'll look better. Like I said, we already have plans for how the game will function. So suggestions on that will just kind of be set aside until we get there. Okay, so we have that in place. Now we're going into our spawner is creating that, and it's feeding into the relevant mob pool type when we're adding it. Global nodes is going to be replaced soon. Because I want to move all of this stuff over to like factory logic. Thought we created something like that already. Did we? I thought we did. Here's our spawner. Godot Rapier. Don't know if we'll use Rapier still. I was testing alternate physics engines to try to improve 2D performance. Constant spawner mob factory. Here we go. So we're going to move some of this global node logic over to here. So part of this is going to be setting up the collision zones. They don't necessarily need to be part of the global structure, since they only exist in the game. So I think we're going to keep the logic of supplying them to the global structure. Which will be removing some of this. Then okay, so we need to go into global nodes. We're going to move some of that over, since we need to make sure that it's as clean as possible when we're creating these. We're going to move that logic over to the factory, which means we want the mob to spawn a mob template to be fed into that, which will be, we're iterating over each one. It needs to return a mob body in exchange for the mob to spawn, the template object. Then we can add the mob to the collision zone, which will be its own thing. Modulate mask, all of that stuff. Look at our mob body. Yeah, if we set the modulate, it's going to try to interact with the sprite, which may lead to problems. if we haven't created it already. So the mob factory is going to be the thing that feeds it in. Okay, so body, and that will be mob template as a mob template. And we'll just do a pass for now. Get our spawner. Okay, it sets mob pool type. We should be able to work with that then. Yeah. So we're going to take all of this. This is trickier. I think we're going to keep the targeting out of it. Yeah. So this is where we're adding it to a collection here. All of the movement logic can be put in advance. It's not until we have a whole collection of mobs that positioning logic is relevant. Positioning logic is mostly relevant to a spawner, not the individuals. So we need this whole mess here. So. Then we need to indent it back to the right tier. There we go. So we do mob template here. Movement modifiers. Where did we define that in our spawner? That's part of the spawner as well. Feels like that's stuff that should go into the generation of each of the mobs is our movement modifiers. Our position modifiers, not so much. But let's keep that as clean as possible. Mob Factory doesn't mess with movement. So let's get that out of Mob Factory. So we're going to go into our spawner. We're going to close other tabs. We're going to close all of our documents too. Spawner. Get our mob factory. There we go. Okay, we're going to remove the movement template logic here. We're just going to create a movement object for each one. Hey there, Daniel. Welcome, welcome. Oh. Let's find a cat. Oh, we got a triple. We got to show a triple. Yeah. You have to maximize cat on screen at all times. Come on, camera. Come on. Might have to switch it to another one to really force it over. Yeah. vtuber, but we want the triple. We want the two brothers in Sammy. There we go. There we go. Do we want a movement object on this already? A mob body does need a movement or else it doesn't go anywhere. But the fact that it's moving is only relevant once it has movement. Like, there's nothing stopping a mob from holding perfectly still. So I think it's the spawner's decision to do that. Because movement move will only happen once we invoke it. Let's look at the spawner. Go in, we create a mob. We spit a mob out. And the question is, do we want to go through to here and add a movement object to it? Or should the factory create movement objects? Because we're going to need to remake movement objects on the reg here. I wonder if... Yeah. Because to get full movement, we have to say, here's your positioning logic. This is separate logic. This is spawn position logic. This is another thing that can probably be factored out. So, what we're doing, what I'm muttering about, is I'm refactoring the spawner so that we can get more of this cleaned up and ready for getting the projectile spawner in place. And essentially get weaponry rolling again. If we can get those in place, we are going to be able to confirm that our collision pattern is fully functional. And if we've got that, then we can finish up, get the player collision working, which may require us, and I think it will require us, to move the player into a collision zone as well, which will create 3. Monsters can collide with the player, and projectiles can collide with monsters, but pretty much nothing else. I think that's where we want it to live. And we'll go from there. Okay, so position is going to be separate. This is all to prep for position. Movement needs to exist by now. So I think mob bodies should have a movement entity as part of them. So we're going to create the movement and we're going to attach it. Which may make us want to populate movement as well. Create movement. This is a chat-oriented stream for the most part. If you have questions or anything like that, feel free to call out. I can always pause and talk to folks. We are operating at the kind of early alpha structural portion of the game. I already have plans for how the game will work and what it will look like. Once we reach the stage where that's what I'm working with on screen, then I will be more open to entertain suggestions. But suggestions or requests about the end state of the game, we're not going to accept any of those. Please don't spam chat with ideas. You can have questions about it and similar, but please don't spam that. Okay, we create the mob. We're going to add it to the pool as soon as we've got it instantiated. And we're going to save off the rest of it. I might need a way to just change that. that once the mob is operating, that it will set these things. But in the interim, we're going to add it first. And that should be okay. Since outside of the mob's behavior, we are unlikely to change things like its avoidance mask and similar. I think we would do that with a new entity instead of messing with it in flight. Okay, and then this is going to... I think we do it this way. It's going to return a mob body. Yes. No. Oh, yes, yes. Returns a mob body. So we can move movement creation. We have movement creation here. But that would be redundant. So we can move that over here. Body as a mob body. Not as a mob factory. That will always be the case that it's using whatever mob we pass in. And then we're also going to pass in movement templates. Movement modifiers. Okay. And movement modifiers are those are an array of packed scenes. Which really, I don't want them to be an array of packed scenes. I want them to be an array of instantiated movement modifiers because they don't need to be packed scenes at that point. So I could convert this over and instantiate... No, I can't instantiate them. Okay, so the reason that I can't instantiate these out of a packed scene is when they're instantiated, a new one is created. And I don't want that instance to be shared. It will be created and passed by reference at that point. It's okay for this to be passed as by reference because it is used in the creation. Same with this position modifier. Position modifier I could actually instantiate inside the spawner to make it easier to use. Yeah. Yeah. Process and physics process. This will happen during the spawn. This is where we're setting what it's attached to. Unclear of how I want to use that. We'll revisit it. We'll revisit it. So I think we want this to be on ready, that we set all of this. And none of this needs to be an export. These are all things that are created by the mob template process here. Export is only if I want to be able to reference it in the inspector on an individual object. Spawners will never do that. Spawners will always be created by a mob factory, which uses a mob template, mob spawner template, sorry, a spawner factory, to create an individual instance of the spawner from that template. So movement modifiers need to stay as a packed scene so I can create new instances. Position modifiers don't. Wish I could do an equals operator here, because I would like this not to be a packed scene. I would like this to be defined up front by the time it gets into a spawner. Movement modifier. Yeah, movement modifiers don't need a node structure. But they're still nodes. Behavior, movement. It's a movement template. Movement modifiers are movement templates. We have them extending this way so that we can instantiate them, but I wonder, can we just real quickly export variable test as an array of type? What I'd want to do is to be able to say it's an array of object types. I don't think I can. Because movement templates don't need to exist as nodes. That's actually a problem for us, having them exist that way. And having them as an array of packed scenes is a error surface. If I could define it as an array of types, we could just instantiate those as new types. But I don't think we can. Just say an array of movement template. Let's take that over. We're going to put it in a spawner template just for testing. Colin, Rune, hey there. Using Hoi, is that a reference to Undertale's cat merchant thing? That was like Tem or something like that? Or is that just a colloquial hi? Or perhaps a shortening of Ahoy? Template. It's interesting. It shouldn't extend a resource. It extends node. But I really don't need it to extend node. Oh, okay. It's because this is a resource type itself. So we have to use packed scenes, which is messy. Can I validate these? So what we're having to use is these types. Movement doesn't need to be an actual scene because movements are never packed scenes. They're just objects that extend node. I mean, they extend node, so that can be a problem since they'll be instantiated. Same with all of these. We'll experiment with that in just a moment. In any event, okay. So in a movement template or in a spawner template, it's an array of packed scenes. We want the movement object to be able to accept an array of movement templates, not an array of packed scenes. We want that to be explicit. So in our mob factory, we are going to take a templates as a array of movement template. Meant. I mean, Sherbet got up and moved around a little earlier. I mean, cat's gonna cat. Let's see. Every now and then they'll run around and play. Ember will usually play later into the evening. There are a couple of little plush things that they like to chase around. But, like I say, cat's gonna cat, which means they're gonna nap most of the time. So that's the mob body that we're going to add to it. Then go into our spawner. And should be able to take this. Copy it over. Okay, and we need, because we have an array of movement templates, we don't need an instantiated movement template. We're going to take a movement template in movement templates. Oh, no. This isn't quite right. This isn't quite right because we have the speed modifiers too. Oh, but we can still do that. We can still do that. We have the movement templates already. So we're just going to add them to the movement object. Is that add movement template? I mean, that takes a movement template. Oh. Oop. There we go. Hey, and that adds that movement object to that mob. If body dot movement is not equal null, okay, let's. It's our mob body. This is another thing that I think we should let the object itself handle. Because right now we're reaching into the object and messing with it. So we're going to add sets. Yeah. So right now we're appending it as a child manually. And if we set its movement, we can do that. We have a movement. If movement does not equal null, then we are going to do you So we don't want that to be a child of the node. So right here, we add it as a child. We don't want that happening here. We want the mob body to handle that itself. Pass on that for now. That's equal to the value passed in. Okay. It has to be a movement object because we're already setting it. We can't specify that. Move child. Oops. Okay, we're going to remove that child and we're going to free it. And name equal to we're making sure that we're setting that. I need to make sure that I set that whenever I add it to trees. Okay, so we've got a setter on this that says if I give it movement, then it will it will add it to the tree itself, which means in the factory, when I create mob movement, I don't do this. I just do that. Doesn't even need to be a tree node, but no, it does. Anything that we want to be part of the actual tree itself, or we want that to be handled as part of the entity, we need to make sure that it's part of the tree, because then when we're done with that object and we remove it from the tree, it cleans itself up. This is good. This is good. Yes. Okay, so we've got that. So we create a new movement object and we set it into the mob body. Then we go into the movement templates. For each movement template, we assign that to the movement object. Let's do that first. Just so. We need the mob body in there because we need to set the body to move in the movement. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, so first we go in and we say mob body is equal to let's check the factory here just to be sure. Okay, it instantiates it. We just pass in a template. Factory dot create a mob body from mob to spawn. So then we're going to get down to the movement logic. Then mob factory dot create mob movement. And now we need, okay, we need the array bar movement templates is equal to array of movement templates, movement template, just so. Then for each one of those, for each pack template in movement modifiers, this movement template is equal to instantiate. They say movement templates. Hey there, traveler. Welcome, welcome. We're making our game today. Oh, we're continuing to work on it. And template. No, we need the modifier speed. We need to iterate on I through this. Count I in template equal to movement modifiers I dot instantiate. J there. Size. Template dot. Make it speed. Let's check that. Yeah, it's speed. So that's in spawner. And that is movement modifier speed J. We add that to our list. We have my body and movement templates. Okay, and then we have all of these accounted for there. So then we're going to adjust the position here. Go. Create our mob bodies. Now we go in and we're making some assumptions. We'll fix this in a moment. This is special. This is another thing that we've got to do in a special fashion. Did I break it? I did. Oh. Is. Reload. this should have already been readied. Hmm. Add movement to body already has a parent of body. Oh. Boop. Remote. Okay, we are trying to create a mob instance. And now we're creating we're in the movement class. So do core, game, collision zone, body, movement. It has movement templates. So movement templates itself should equal the node. And we call add movement template on it. Oh, no, movement templates. Why didn't this get set? Reload. Movement templates node should exist. It does. And if we look at the remote on this, game, collision zone, body, movement, it has movement templates. So movement templates should be getting set here. This core root game, yeah. So then we step out of that. And so if we look at our movement node, which should be that one, and its movement templates node exists. We'll continue this thought in just a moment and take a short break. Settling back in, folks, just a moment. Let's see. Is what safety protection there, Drew? So, yeah. Our, I thought so. I thought so. Okay. I know what's going wrong with that now. Okay, back to game. All right. I can't mess with my volume controls while it's in debug mode. Step over. We have a mob body. We get movement templates. Now we're going to step into this. We create a new movement object, which is a node. We pop that in there. Weird. I'm going to add a pass here. Reload. Exit. Put the breakpoint on that pass. Movement templates. Exists. Movement templates is null. Interesting. I started to respond there, Drew. My question is what EMP shielding? Oh, is there? Okay. For a Nyanite or a catbot? No. For a nanotype, yes. I can't say there wouldn't be damage to things like the visual portion of the eyes, you know, the little screen in there that gives me the big anime eyes. But nanofluid is the actual substance inside of a nanotype. And that is not subject to things like electromagnetic pulse. Okay. Why is movement templates null? Because it gets set in the ready. A set there. Yeah, this is getting flushed out. Weird. It adds the node. It's almost like after this method passes that this child is going away. But that's strange. Because we can see that it's created. So right here, if I look at the remote object, I don't know what this node 2 is. I don't like that. Oh, no, that's the monster spawner. Okay. You doing a another attempt at a Terraria run? Into the collision zone. Body movement. It's a movement template. It's like this is going away. Let's try this. Strange. How strange. Okay. It ceases to find it. After this point, this node isn't actually here. It is currently Sunday at about 4:45. I mean, it's right about 5:50, so seem to be about the same place. It'd be fun. That kind of thing reminds me of an anime and game series called Dot Hack, where areas were generated by a series of keywords that you gained access to. So same general concept is if the same keywords were fed in, it's possible that well, if the same keywords were set in, you'd get the same world. Though it depends on whether the name is a independent aspect of the seed hash, you know? The adds the movement to it, and the movement has the node. So the question is, why does that go away? Oh. Maybe this is part of the problem. Because we're instantiating a new mob body or mob movement object here. I mean, that should do the footwork that we need it to do. So let's shift this. Take our mob body, and we're going to have array new. We're just creating an empty array here. We're going to populate the mob body accordingly. Array of movement template. Take empty templates and put that here. Same problem yet. Same problem yet. Wait. Why are we calling add movement template? No, we want this to happen. We want this to happen. Why does this go away? Yeah, so it has movement templates. It's there. What if... And we look at this and it exists. Right here. This node is a thing. It's just an arbitrary node type. I could just add the movement templates as if they are grouped elements, but that seems sloppy to just pile things in there when I can have the movement object get those. All right, let's try something else here. We're going to look at our node for movement, and then we're going to be child entered. So, and child exiting. Just so. Some people do that sort of thing. These are never getting called. Like right here, we should have that. Step over, add child. The event doesn't fire. Weird. Unforeseen issue. Unforeseen issue. Okay, we're going to go here. We're going to start. We're going to look at our remote tree, game, body, movement. We have a movement node attached. Was the movement node already attached? Oh. Why is that? Oh, no, yeah, because we're in the movement object here. Movement object has no internal structure. This is the movement object being ready. Now we are going to name the node. We add a child node. It pops into existence. We have null in movement templates. We hop out and we look at our movement object. It should be a mob body movements. Yeah, right there. It's so then our movement, where is it? Body, movement templates. It exists. It exists. So now we hop over to here and we're going to look at our mob body again. as a movement, as movement templates. There's nothing in it yet. So we instantiate them all. We have create mob movement. We have a mob body. Is that writing mob body? Which has movement, which has movement templates. Right here. Just so exists. And we are passing in our array of movement templates, of which there are 3. Now this one has a speed of 0, speed of 1, speed of 48. That's what we want. And then have our mob movement. We're going to step into. And now we look at our mob body. We look at its movement. Its movement templates is set. We step over. Oh. We're going to look at our movement object right here. Its movement templates is null. This is where the problem is happening. Okay, that was the problem. We had not added the new movement to the tree. Any of the flying creatures, the ones with like swooping behavior there, Drew, or like harpy strafing behavior, are going to be really hard to deal with when you can't just take them out of the air, you know? Early on, when you got to jump up and poke at them, that would be a problem. Okay. Go into our spawner. We instantiate them, we feed them to the object. We add the mob bodies to our list. Now we have positioning logic. So our position modifiers don't need to stay as a packed scene. Because position modifiers don't really change. Or do they? Even just the idea of winging a stick at them, Drew. Big pile of sticks and chuck them. Perhaps rocks. Yeah. I would end up making... a new set every time, like a new spawner. Because I don't need to recreate this each time. It's actually kind of messy to recreate this each time. Okay, copy. Directory access. Hello, Sky. Okay, this is an interesting thought here, because movement templates in speed are static until I change the object. So the thought would be anytime modifiers or changes happen to a projectile, we would just recreate the spawner. Because we have the type, and then we can load that spawner with all of the modifiers it needs. But we don't want movement modifiers to be duplicated. I'm sorry, we don't want them to be the same object, because that will lead to a problem we had before, which was all of the projectiles targeting the exact same things, because they all shared the same movement modifiers and thus the same internal variables. Hey there, Copper. Welcome, welcome. Okay. 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 So how do we do this? So we've got the spawning pretty much wrapped up. One of the things I'm looking at is this for efficiency, but I don't know if it's really a problem to keep it this way or not. What I don't like is that I have to keep instantiating these over and over. Like every time it spawns, I run through this. This might be an efficiency thing. This one, where I instantiate it and use it, instantiate it and use it. These are relatively static entities, so I should only need to recreate it once. Whereas with these up here, I need to create all new ones each time. I need to duplicate them. We haven't really considered exactly how the game is going to be available, Copper, since we're so far out from really playable at this stage. But the goal is for it to be a consumable game, you know, something that will be available to folks. The exact how of that and the details are completely unknown at this time. By doing this, we create a new one of the type that we need. So we could prefab this one. Position modifiers will change, but that's a recreation of a spawner. Just like movement modifiers, if those change, that's different. You know what? Okay, no, we need that calculation to happen in bulk. Instead of checking their mob pool type, oh, tricky. What we want to do is be able to combine the mob pool type. Like, this is a short circuit that I don't like. These are constants. Do const test as a dictionary to this. Okay, okay. So we can use collision mass wall. We can OR these things together. Same with these. How am I using that? Okay, we'll contend with this a little later. I'll leave this special logic in. This is logic that says if this is a type of mob that if we're spawning a type of mob that collides with itself, we try to use this logic to shuffle them around. Global nodes. Monster. It's not perfect. It's really not perfect. Let me fiddle with that just a bit. Is anywhere from it's half a square, that's a quarter square. Let's go out to a quarter square from an eighth square. They should jiggle out of each other a bit when they spawn this way. These are the problem, guys. Those right there, how they are piled on top of each other and won't unstick. Okay, that's going to be a post-processing thing. What we want to do is find out if there are collision zones inside of an individual entity, inside of a mask that can collide with itself. So enemies can collide with themselves. We ultimately want to say they cannot exist inside of each other. We may be able to change mob movement logic, like the enemy movement logic, such that we are using like flocking behavior instead of the base movement of the game. But for the time being, this should be fine. It's a rotation segment here. Oh no, but this is radiance. Yeah. Yeah. Let's look back at that. It's our current. Okay, this segment is wrong. Raise to radians. I keep messing that up, and I've messed that up in several places where I've used degrees instead of radians, and that throws it off entirely. So we still get ones that are overlapped. I don't know why. We're getting kind of a double spawn too close to each other. And they're not getting out of the way. So we'll need to figure out something for jiggling mobs out of the way of each other. Anyway. Okay. So we've got mobs generally spawning here. Next, we need go to our game world here. We have monster collision zone. We are going to copy that into here. Bullet collision zone. So then we go into our game object here. Area 2D. And we select you. Zone. Go into our globals. Create 2D. Always nice to have a freebie with that. In our game logic, we have bullet collision zone. So like so. Those nodes. Okay. We're going to go into the game where we set up our bullet spawner here. Check our bullet collision zones. Collision logic is only with enemies. Check our template. What's a second? Oh, okay. Is our mob body here, our projectile. Where we are making a survivor style game. If you're familiar with Vampire Survivors, the bullet heaven genre. We're still kind of early in the process, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're learning Godot engine at the same time. This is why. This is why. Sprite needs to be animation, new sprite frames. To this, I'm going to load it from a file. Weapons file, weapon mouse is 16 by 16. Each of those frames, add the frames, set it to auto go, and so look at our 2D world. Isn't the what now? There's our sprite body. The genre? I don't know. There's still plenty of them being created. We're past the point now where, well, we seem to be past the point where everybody is trying to make that like crazy. To little effect. Like, there's been a period where everybody was cranking out those games, but they were generally kind of shoddy, not well thought out. You get a lot of games like that that are it's just like with Souls games, let's say. We still get a lot of Souls games. We still get a lot of ARPGs that come up. And a lot of them suffer from the design methodology of, I liked this particular version of the game, so I'm going to make my own exactly like that. And there isn't that what actually made this fun to play. It's their memory of what they thought was fun to play. They put their own spin on it, but they don't figure out how to actually make those things work. We're using that pattern because it's pretty straightforward, and it's an interesting experiment to work with. You know, the general idea is pretty clear cut, and we've got some ideas on how to make it interesting to play. Will it work? Dunno. But that's part of the experiment, you know? Will we get to the end and will it work? Yep, a thing with a lot of games and concepts ends up being that there is a gap between the idea of the game. Like, I liked this game and I like this game, bash them together with the idea that, hey, it could be like this, and the actual flow of it. Like, how will the game play that general idea? We get a lot of concepts out there where it will be the art shows up, that kind of thing, where it is, look at this cool picture of what the game could look like, but what the game would play like is what's more important early. I've had programming experience before. I have programmed in everything from like early basic into like your visual basics, into things like C++, Java. The most recent one I liked doing were things like C#, very straightforward language. Easy to use, but also not the type that completely obfuscated everything that you were doing. We are currently using GDScript, the scripting language particular to Godot engine. You can use C# in it, and that's one of the things to me that's attractive about the tool. But for what we're working with, for what we're doing right now, GDScript is actually a really good option, performance-wise. Okay, it's still not emitting bodies that are visible. Why is that? Oh, where is our body here? Clear that. We need check down mouse. And we're also going to look at that resource. We have the spawner. It is a type. It doesn't need an avoidance pool. Milton, we're making a survivor style game. The like Vampire Survivors. Why this not get created then? We look at the blob body. Maybe we'll get a hint here. We'll need it to do its facing. That's definitely a thing. 2D, yes. Okay, the mouse spawner isn't working. It's getting there. One of the advantages that Godot has going for it is it's kind of a community passion project. It lives in a similar space to tools like Blender, where there is less... It's less about their own platform, like their own marketing tool kind of thing. Like your Unreal Engines kind of stuff. That is not to say that Unreal Engine is a bad platform. It's that there is less of a corporate marketing drive involved in the creation and update of the tool. But for the most part, I just wanted to try out Godot, and it's pretty useful. This is the 25th coding stream of this. I work on it about like 3-ish hours per stream. Why this not spawning? Okay, let us narrow this down. So we go into the game, and we are going to... We'll make this simple. We will take the monster spawner blob, and we're going to say that its interval is, you know, a great big number. Graphics are just an interface into the experience. You can do beautiful things with 3D. You can do beautiful things with 2D. It's all in how you make it and the fun of playing the game. Okay, so now if we go into our spawner, we should only get spawn events from the bullet spawner. Which means we should be able to... Ah! Found the problem. If it's greater, then we are going to pass else. Should get mouse projectiles. They pool node is nil. Let's double check. Our bullet type is 2. And the homing mouse spawners, where's its mob pool type? Mouse. Mob pool type is 2. I wouldn't actually put hours to content like that. It's akin to why you don't. Let's put it another way. Hours spent or lines of code are bad metrics for quality of result. Both of those incentivize the wrong thing. Lines of code incentivizes making things verbose. Hours of time spent incentivizes taking extra time. I think it's much more I think the end result is more valuable in that kind of check. Is 1,000 hours of content that is boring is less good than 1 hour of content that is fantastic. So if I were to take that 80 to 100 and spend that on that 1,000 hours of garbage, then I haven't done as well. I could spend 2 to 3 times that on the. If I spent that thousands and thousands of hours on that 1 hour, and the game was a takeoff success, then it still is better than the 1,000 hours of content. Let alone the amount of work. You get a lot of yes, where kilo lines of code is a terrible metric. It is just a bad metric. In the same one really concrete example is changes to code. So if I go in and I change 1 line of code, that doesn't mean the change is small. If I change thousands of lines of code, that definitely means the change isn't small, though. Because every one of those lines of code, assuming your system isn't subvertible by like comments and whatnot, then every one of those lines of code did a thing. So you need to make sure every one of those lines of code continues to do the right thing. But even that 1 line of code can do an amazing amount of things. So it just like with the game, it's the result that matters. If I'm doing changes that result in very few issues and result in significant project progress, then I am doing good. If I make big changes that result in all kinds of problems, and the end result is still good after all those problems are fixed, better but not as good. Circling back to the hours spent kind of thing, if I do changes that significantly advance the program and I spend very little time doing it, and I don't create problems by doing it, then that's really good. Unfortunately, especially from a big company perspective, it's hard to quantify that. It's hard to put that in a graph and say, this person is doing 5 points better than that person. Which is where your KPIs and stuff start to break down. In Milton, yes, it can be hard to make a game alone. Definitely hard to make a game alone, but you can still do. Do I have experience on multiplayer? Not at all. Could I go into this eventually to make it multiplayer? Yes. But that's a whole other can of worms to learn about and design for. Yeah. How you go about marketing, that's a non trivial thing as well. It's a whole other skill set. Uh, Identifying what skills you might need or might want and obtaining those is a big part of the process. Yes, where I am doing the art, I have some advantage in that I'm doing 16 by 16 sprites. uh, so while I do need to deal with um, making sure that the space that I use is very efficient for meaning, it also means that my lack of larger scale art skill is not going to hold me back as much. So, for example, oh wait, that's not working. Let me fix. Pool node is get pool node, should return the pool node. I should set a type to that. Oop, okay. Pool type is 2. And player bullet should result in a 2. Oh, okay, well, there's our problem. Bullet collision zone is nothing. Which would mean that in our game object, our bullet collision zone is not assigned. Boop. Hey there, Nate. Welcome, welcome. That, unpause. Count. Get children. Why you broken? Okay, okay. Let's do a kitten check. It's making sure that the experience is synced up properly between them, given that we're going to have huge numbers of things on screen that are all relevant. But you are correct in that systems like Godot have baked in tools for it. Hey there, sniper. Okay, okay. Spread modification. So for each movement template, get the children. I'm having to revise this because this predates the code for the way that I'm doing movement templates now. We're trying to get the bullets wired into the new collision system. Get the mob body. Get child. Okay. Input is node. Not size. Oh. Oh, I hate this this spread so much. Movement. Not movement template dot children dot size. Can I do this? Can I get away with this? Boo. I hate how long this method is. Our movement templates. Two. Do. There. Every now and then, Godot Engine tries to be helpful with its code suggestions. Correct. It's that we need to make sure that they are simulated correctly so that, well, there's a lot of wiggle in this kind of game. We don't need to be as precise. And assuming we keep it a fully offline game, assuming it is just a non-competitive mess around game, there isn't a lot of worry about client trust as much. You know, you can do a peer-to-peer where we don't have to keep validating what the other person is doing. Whereas in a client-server mechanic, the client is a terrible monster and a liar, and you cannot trust them. Okay, now we can rotate them. Okay. I have not tried React. I have encountered React. Oh, and sorry, Nay, I didn't see your comment. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I've encountered it. I've worked with it very little. But, yeah. The JavaScript package. Not super fond of JavaScript when I can avoid it. It's one of those languages where you can be very precise if you're very careful, but common coding patterns that are used and mistakes that are made can result in really weird issues because of how loose the language is. That's why, as much as possible, when I'm doing my declarations, I'm doing things like this is a float, treat it as a float. Because if you don't, this is a variant. This is a whatever I want it to be. And the compiler will just try to wing it based on what you do. I don't like that. If I do this and I try to stuff an object into it, the compiler will complain. It will break. I want it to break if that happens. Because if that happens, I did something terribly wrong. Okay, so we have the mice working now. Trick. The next trick is getting them to collide. Because, as might be apparent, these collision zones are not individual creatures. Let's get the blobs going again. We're going to have them spawn in 1 second intervals just to keep it sane for now. We can see the little collision zones. The mice are not using avoidance logic, so they don't care about their ray traces there. And you can see the blobs aren't reacting to them at all. The mice aren't reacting to the blobs. These circles are not individual entities. Well, collision-wise, they aren't really their own thing. This blob and all the circles on the blobs are just shapes. There is a collision zone that spans the world for enemies and for bullets. So last time we set it up to work this way, but now we need to approach collision. Now that we've got the bullets moving, we need to approach getting collision in the game again. Actual collision, not just the physics bump off of each other kind of collision. And yes, there is default physics. We can't use it. The physics system starts to go berserk after a few hundred things. And we need there to be... I'm going to say we probably want to be able to hit 400 to 500 animated sprites on the screen colliding. We can definitely hold it 60 frames per second at 300 to 400 things on screen, but it needs to be precise. Yeah. That's also why, for a similar reason, where you might not be able to see it clearly because you're looking at it in. No, you're looking at it in widescreen. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. You can't see the screen. Um, the mobile flag up here is maximum compatibility. So I want to be able to deploy this on different platforms, not because I'm planning some sort of like release it on all platforms at once kind of thing. Trying to release on Apple early would be a nightmare. Apple is not a friendly app deployment system. But I want to be able to choose how I deploy it. Maybe I'll try to set it up as like it could be a Steam thing. It could be a compiled executable downloaded. It could be itch.io, those kind of things. I haven't planned that yet, but by basing it around maximum compatibility mode, I have that option going forward. Okay. Okay. So now, in our collision zone, where did I put that? Here we go. On area shape entered and body shape entered. Ideally, we won't need body shape entered once we're done. Is this working? Aha! It works. Yay! Okay, so we get shape, local shape. They both have circle shapes. They're overlapping. One sprite is the mouse. And other one sprite should be the blob. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. It's exactly what we want. Hey there, is it Fandry or Fondry? Let me see if I can find that. Project settings. Looks like we're using OpenGL. OpenGL 3, it would seem. Making progress there, Drew. Okay, so we know what they are. We're calling collide on it. Does it have collide? Mob body should have collide. So let's check blob body. We have hurtable hurt in it. Let's look at the mouse body. So this collision happened we no longer have because thinking. Yep. OpenGL is a nice, I mean, it's kind of, oh would I put it? Low level basic stuff. Like if you just started from nothing, you need to get libraries and whatnot to get rolling, or try to code against the API directly, which is, that's possible. It's just, why would you? But because of that, it means that it's easy to adopt. Like it's a framework that those drivers can work on in the background. You get something more robust than that, like dev tool wise, and you start to worry more about compatibility because those optimizations are going to creep in and bite you. Okay, so if we look in mob body, we should have a function called collide, which by default does nothing. We need to think about this. We'll think about that later. Body, we're going to take this collide function, we're going to override it in the mouse. And we have our collide with body. All right, Milton, thanks for joining us. Okay, we create an attack. Call hurtable hurt on it. And then we get rid of ourselves. These mouse objects are automatically aiming at a mob body in the world. Okay, the blobs aren't reacting to hurtable hurt, but that's... I just have to do that. Yeah. This is a Godot script. GD script doesn't have interfaces. This is a way to check those interfaces, or this is a workaround for that. I don't really need it. I could just say, does it have hurt? And it would accomplish a similar thing as doing this. I may ultimately just switch over to, does it have hurt? Oop. Yeah. Oh man. I don't know if I haven't counted or kept track of it. Let's see here. Is there a way to get that? Oh. I'll have to use that next time. Collision shapes visible. I don't know if I can find that. I may have to look it up. But I wouldn't be able to say. We're going to pick back up and keep moving in just a few minutes. I'm going to take a short break, get up and move around and what have you. Getting settled back in. Topping up the beverage. Not yet, Lunar. We have made a lot of progress, though. For the giggles, just a moment. Spawner here. Spawner, monster spawner, and weapon spawner. Let's make 10 blobs at once every second. And then for the homing mouse, we will do 3 groups of 1, 3, 3. Oh, 4 groups of 4. Okay, I don't like that one's staying still, but we'll work on it. Definitely some movement bugs yet. Per Drew's point, that's not right. Okay, well, there goes our FPS. Let's look at our camera. We're going to zoom out to 0.1. So the problem we're going to have is these little mouse things are going to get past the edge of the screen soon. A great deal of how they're working is not working how it's supposed to at the moment, but we have zoomed out to 10x so that you can see the problem with the little mice is they are leaving the screen. And since they're spawning about 16 at a time every second, these little clusters, that there are too many. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go into these collision zones, and we need to set up kill zones for them. So if we look in mob survival area here, it is looking for everything. So mob survival area needs to be a collision zone. Yes, you couldn't see it, but there are 4 giant boxes. This is the kill zone. If they get a screen and a half away from the player, they go away. That is so that the player can never see the edge of the world. They can never see where the kill zone is. Otherwise, you will run into the kill zone. Oh, you'll be able to see it. Okay, we're going to change type. Such that it will be a collision zone. Look at its script. Where was I doing that? Okay, collision zone sets up its connections. Okay, okay. Local mob will collide, but local mob is not a mob body. The collision zones are not mob bodies. So a kill zone is slightly different. I don't want to have to replicate this. So I could add an extra extended type such that there is a handle collision off of them. And a mob collision zone is like this. A kill zone collision zone should only be where it doesn't care what that area is. Now, alternately, I could make these mob bodies, and they could have their collide with logic. But if I make them mob bodies, then they have a bunch of baggage that they don't need. They're vectors and what have you. That might be a good way to short circuit it for now. But again, lots of needless baggage. Okay. For the time being, we're going to make a separate collision zone type that is going to be a child of collision zone, and it's going to override on shape entered, where it's only going to care about the get shape node for other shape, and it's going to kill it. It's going to queue free it. There are better ways that we will ultimately go about this. We will take that object and we could cycle it around. We could put it through the other end of the screen. But for the time being, if it touches a kill zone, it will be removed. Okay. New, it is a script. It extends collision zone. Yes, I know, Ember. I moved. I'm sorry. No, I know. Says, no, you're moving around. I'm not comfy anymore. Okay, if we look at kill zone, it extends collision zone. It doesn't need anything other than on shape entered. And it will say other shape. Other shape. You free. To change its type, it is a kill zone. Oh, no, we've got a class underscore name kill zone. So again, flaw with the projectiles. We're going to have to revisit those. But anything that gets to this point should be going away. They are not. This is problem still. Inspector, its collision. It is looking for anything. Shape entered. Okay, we're gonna take the blob spawner and we will drop that down to no size modifiers. And its spawn interval will be a great big number. Homing mouse. I'm betting that it's target random mob and move straight line. Like this chain of events is failing. But we'll have to fix that later. Its movement will do 300, so it gets to the edge really fast. We will remove movement modifiers. This will let us go into the kill zone and see that we get this. Did not collide. Okay. Those are in place. Need that. Okay. It entered, nothing happened. Why did that get readied 4 times? 1, 2, 3, 4. Vote for game. It should collide with everything. Particular. That should be the layout. That one, and we have this one. Okay, it's not even calling them for that. Let's look at our code. We move the survival area around. But why? But why? Oh no, okay, this should get spawned. This should get triggered 3 times. Because there are 3 zones. So the first one... if... No, it's still not... It's just not colliding. Like, it doesn't need to be monitorable. But let's put that in there. Other things could look at it. Middle collision. B. Local shape node and other shape node. only know that these are... yes, it can. It's like we can't use subtypes here. Okay. So instead, we are going to override handle collision in the kill zone. Just trying to science this a little bit, seeing if the it is the wiring of the objects that is going wrong. The event attaching. Nope, that is not. I like this structure better, at least. We even call into this for the purposes of testing. 1,000. Yom. No, we don't even call that. Save, rename. Into our game object. Survival area there. Nope. I mean, it's properly a kill zone now. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, that should still work. Collision zone. Okay, this collision zone is properly wired. Could have collide be a method on all of them and just let this be handled. Okay, so this should be our kill zone here. And this one is... This is our enemy zone. And this one is the bullet zone. Let's further this test here. We are going to go into our blob spawner and set it to 1 a second, just like the other. We're going to run a blob into the edge here and see if it goes away. Okay, blobs are being wiped out. Blobs are being wiped out. You can see them right here. Oop. Oop. This is not what we want here. Get a blob spawner, set it back to that. Okay. Huh. Why isn't handle collision being overridden? Because this is not a collision zone. That's correct. Where's our projectile? It's 2, it's type bullet, but that doesn't seem right. That shouldn't matter. Bullet collision zone. Oh. Oh. Yum. Oh, no, still not working. The type 5. It looks for a type 3. Oh, looks for a type 5. And looks for enemies, walls, objects. One more. I think we got it. Nope. There we go. Now we're going to look at our debugger. We're going to look at our monitors. Yes. Orphan nodes is climbing. There is something that's going wrong with every projectile that is being created. One thing gets orphaned. Our nodes and our resources are cycling about correctly here. Okay, so there is something being orphaned in this pattern here. One at a time. Again, start it. Back over here. Oh, no, this is not what I wanted here. Oh. It's weird that there are two. Okay, so I can't see orphaned objects in this process here, this portion. We can see that there are multiple getting created here. But where is the orphaned object being created? I thought there was a way to track that. Hey there, Danny. Welcome. Are trying to locate some orphaned objects here. We're doing well. We're doing well. Making progress. We have our collision system and the edge of the screen kill zone back up and operational, but we do have a problem. I can't tell if this is when they're going away or when they're being created. So let's go here. So we look at our monitors, we have 55. We're going to create bodies here. 56, so that's after creation. Let's look at the kill zone as well. Oh, I haven't reactivated that. There was a period where I had Twitch affiliate, Danny, and during the period when they weren't allowing multi-streaming, I ceased to be Twitch affiliate, and I just haven't done that again. Six. As of right now, we're at 57. Okay, I think it's during the creation process that this is happening. So in create mob bodies, we're going to enter here, and we're going to see if we can spot when it goes wrong. Click. Okay. So we look at our monitors. We have no orphan nodes. Get a new target. We look at our monitors. Still nothing. I wish I could do my stack trace at the same time. Okay. We create mob body. Nothing yet. We go through our movement templates. Nothing yet. Now we're going to append the movement object. Nothing yet. Still looking good. Now we do the movement, and we're going to look at our profiler again. Nothing yet. Now we're going through our position modifiers. And after the position modifier, still nothing. Which implies to me that it actually has to be the removal of the mobs. Okay. We're adding that pass there. That's a deadline, but it should let us have an opportunity to step over. Okay, we just got 4 objects already. By the time we get to handle collision, we've already got a problem. Okay, where's our collision zone? Already 2 by the time we get here. Okay. But how and when? How and when? How about in movement? We have anywhere, so we have an add child going on here. We have add child going on there. Thing there. We instantiated it. We set it there. Go in. And no movement template set up there. That there's nothing in it. Yeah. We're creating a whole new one. It's wasteful, but it still lets it operate properly, I think. Be cool if I could set this to be like a catch that if this happened, break. Doesn't seem like it's the creation of them. So what happens if in my kill zone I remove this? Okay, it's not their removal. And how about do it 10 times faster? Hello, Sherbet. Hello. Every second it's going up by 10. There are some outliers there. Okay. Is there anything in the mouse object that's causing that to happen? Check the blob. It's weird. Okay. Mouse object has a problem. Mouse object has a problem. Okay. Okay, that's... This is good. This is good. Well, it's bad, but it means that we have a solution path that we can start investigating. It's not in there. there. And it can't be in the movement logic here because then the blobs would do it too. It's not in collision. It's not in process. Its mob body has something it was doing in process that's important. No. Then let's... pause. We currently have 2 bodies in the bullet collision zone. Each of them has the same movement template. This is something different here. Okay, that's something different. There should be something where I can see what the objects are. What? I think that we're generating more objects too. All right. All right. We're going to have to revisit this. We have a memory leak in the creation of the mouse objects. There is something wrong. Let's do one last eyeball of this. Mouse body. Doesn't seem to have anything to do with its collision logic here. Like if we just do a pass on this, it's still fine. This isn't getting triggered because it's the kill zone. Is it the freeing logic? said we were going to stop here, but you know how it is. Okay, kill zone is not freeing anything. Okay, 1 per mouse created. What if we don't put movements on the mouse? Factory, where's our spawner? We are going to not create a movement on it. Means they won't move. And we are now creating many objects that are debugger, monitor. Still creating an orphaned one each time. It implies to me that there's part of this that is the problem. All right, we'll see if I remember to check this next time. But it looks like we are leaking an object somewhere in this. Hey there, Chow. Joining us right about at the end. I want to check one more thing. I keep delaying, you know, one more thing. No orphaned node. Jump to next spot. Still no orphaned node. Jump to here. Still nothing. All the way to the position mods. Nothing. All the way to here. Yeah. This is actually pretty uncommon. Sammy usually doesn't put up with them. What if in the mouse we remove the position modifiers? Okay, position modifiers are the problem. Spread shot is doing something wrong. Okay. I think we've got it. I think we've got it. We're gonna run a little bit long here, just because I want to see what we did wrong with spread shot. Honor. Behaviors, position modifiers. somewhere in here. Go back into our homing mouse. We are going to add a position modifier. Going to go up to here. So. Okay, we're in the position modifier. Go to modifier, nothing orphaned yet. I'll run down to here. And yet. There's only one thing to modify. Makes sense, makes sense. Okay, then we're going to look at nothing yet. Created a target. Targets are not nodes anymore. How does star get you, Drew? Were you trying to get a star? I didn't think they caused damage when they fell, like to players. Is that a hardcore thing? Okay, we got a little ahead of ourselves there. Calling modify position out of the spawner. I'm going to put a pass right here. This. We are at 2. Three. Oh, position modifiers are nodes. That was it. All right, Drew. Have a good time. Okay, this was the problem. Position modifiers have to be instantiated. The same thing happens with movement templates, but we are appending them to a movement object. They are going into the tree. Position modifiers aren't. This is further reason to instantiate them once and keep them as a child of the spawner. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. We made progress. We made progress. We have the different spawning layers, and we have the kill zone. The next thing is going to be to reformat the player object to be a mob body, a special type of mob body. We'll still likely attach the camera to it, whether that's, I think it'll be in the game. In the game world, it'll have the camera attached. But it will have the same logic in that it will be part of a collision zone. I might make the whole thing the player, but we'll see. We'll see. Oh, I hope everybody had a good time today. We're, of course, going to be continuing to do this. All of the coding streams are scheduled out a ways in advance, and barring issues on that particular day, they will be happening at about the same time. So, if you want to see more of them, then take a look at the YouTube channel. That's where the schedule is, the upcoming live streams. For the most part, the streams are numbered, so you can figure out which one's coming up next. Gaming stream wise, still trying to figure out what to do with those. Hopefully, we will continue doing them. We'll get back on schedule for those, but we'll see. We'll see. Again, though, if you had a good time and would like to see more of content like this, remember to like, follow, subscribe, that kind of thing. It will help the associated algorithms feed you more content like this in the future, and maybe I'll see you on a subsequent stream. Until then, have a good rest of your day.